Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a video about how to make money on the side with a full-time job. So I work full-time. Most people think that if you have a full-time job, you can't make money on the side. Well, I'm here to tell you that's wrong. So what I'm going to do is initially tell you about all the different side hustles that I do, and then after that I'm just going to give you a few tips on how to actually make this work with a full-time job. I'm not a huge fan of long intros, so let's just get straight into it. A few of these are already on my getting out of debt video, but I wanted to just go a little bit more in depth into each of them as well. So one of the first things I've mentioned in that video was 0 hours jobs. So I'm going to split these into two different ones here because I'm telling you about what I do. So the first job that I do is a 0 hours bar job. Essentially, I've signed up to an agency which gives me part-time, zero commitment, bar work and waitressing work in all the different sort of events venues like stadiums and things. As an example, I've actually worked at Emirates Stadium, so it's been a pretty cool experience. I'd never really been in like a huge football stadium before, so really cool experience, and got to meet loads of people, interact with people, and yeah, just generally really enjoyed it. And the way that it works is essentially you have an online system where they show you show when you're available, and they will offer you shifts and you can say yes or no. I think you do get penalized a little bit if you are constantly saying you're available but then not accepting the work, but the key here is like just update your availability. A shift will come up at a stadium somewhere and you decide whether you want it or not. To preempt one of the questions that I might get asked, I'd never done bar work before. I just decided that I needed something to get me out of the house and keep me occupied, keep my mind off things, because I had so much going on at the time. And it ended up being like an amazing thing that I did, because out of that I got both of the two first jobs I'm going to talk about. So that one I've just mentioned and the second one I'm going to mention. And I didn't actually think I was going to get either of them, but considering I had no experience. But yeah, I had absolutely no problem getting either of the jobs, and it's been an absolutely great experience. Purely just because I actually enjoy the work and I enjoy the socializing and the doing something different than just sitting on my butt all day at the office, stressing over numbers. The second side job that I do, again, it's a 0 hours one, but it's actually supervising a restaurant. Very strange to do this part-time again, but once again, it's in one of these sort of event venues where they basically have quite a few staff on a 0 hours basis, and they just offer you the shifts, and when you want it, you say yes. If you don't, you don't. First come, first serve type thing. But out of all of these jobs, I think this has been my favorite. And yes, there are really stressful days, but the majority of the time, it's just been an incredible experience where I've got to experience a completely different type of work and meet different people. And yeah, I got very lucky. I think it would be a very different experience if I wasn't supervising straight away. I was lucky enough that despite the fact that I had no waitressing experience or restaurant experience or anything like that, I was given the supervisor role because of other experience that I've got. Generally in leadership, the people I work with are absolutely amazing, and it's literally one of the most fun things I've ever done. And if anything, what it's done is completely fuel this sort of like drive to achieve the financial independence, because if I could do that sort of work as like my main source of income, I would be so happy. Like sitting in an office all day, worrying about numbers that ultimately are meaningless, and working for someone else's dream, letting it stress me out so much, it's just not what I want to do for the rest of my life. So if I can achieve something that means I can just work part-time, interacting with people, you know, whether it's in a cafe or a bar or a restaurant or something, I would just be really happy. Anyway, blabbing on a bit there. Moving on. The third side hustle you can do on top of a full-time job is pet sitting. So with pet sitting, there are different kinds of pet sitting that you can do. So you can either walk dogs in your free time, or what I've done in the past is go and visit the particular pet. So the pet stays, whether it's a dog or a cat, I've done both. You know, you go to the person's house after work, for example, and go and pop in, feed it, you know, take it for a walk if it's a dog, play with it if it's a cat, you know, things like that, and then just go home. And the other one is basically they bring the pet to you. So this massively depends on the pet and how far away you live, but especially with something like a dog doesn't get as stressed going to someone else's house as a cat would, for example. So that's like the ultimate side hustle for you, because at the end of the day, you bring the pet into your home, and yes, you need to think about feeding it and maybe taking it for a walk. But that's like minimal effort. It doesn't take a lot of time. And if you are boarding the dog in your own house, you'll likely get paid a lot more money than if you were just popping over to take it out for a walk. The fourth one is affiliate links. Now, I know people hate hearing this, and a lot of people have this view that it takes, you know, so long to build up an online presence big enough to make money from affiliate links. That's not true. At the time of filming this video, I think I've got about 470 subscribers at the moment. And, you know, in the big bad world of YouTube and blogging, that's not a large amount, but I've already been making, you know, money from the affiliate links, the free share links, where if you go in the description below and use my link to sign up to the trading platform, we both get a free share. Ultimately, that's free money, you know? You don't have to put a minimum investing amount in. You can literally open that account with a few pounds or dollars and take that free share and then just withdraw it as money. Hopefully that gives you a bit more of an idea that you really don't need to, you know, have tens of thousands of followers in order to make money from affiliate links. Obviously, YouTube does play into that if you do end up growing, and if YouTube is one of the platforms that you use, because obviously you can use affiliate links on blogs or other social media. With YouTube though, obviously when you reach a certain threshold, you can start making money off of YouTube as well. I'm not quite there yet, but maybe one day. The fifth one is babysitting, and I don't do this very often. I used to do it a lot more often when I was a student, but I do have some sort of friends of friends who trust me to babysit for them, and every once in a while they'll just say to me like, can you sit for us on this evening? And most of the time I say yes, because it is good money. So what I would suggest with this is basically just ask around, you know, if you have friends who know people who have kids, you know, maybe ask your parents or your family or anyone like that, and do it through that. I mean, there are websites that you can sign up to for childminding, but those sorts of arrangements tend to be a lot more formal and a lot more regular. So for example, they might be looking for someone who's sitting every week or every day, and if you can do that, that's great. But for me, it was the flexibility that meant I could do it, because obviously I've got all these other side hustles that I've just mentioned that I do. So having the flexibility of just doing this once in a while was what made it work for me. The sixth one I'm going to mention is something that I've not yet done, but I'm taking the steps to do. So I'm currently studying for the Teaching English as a Foreign Language course in order to be an online tutor. This is something that I really want to do purely because it's a great way to fit in some extra income in the hours that you have free on top of everything else. I mean, you can do face-to-face tutoring, but the majority of tutoring for teaching English as a foreign language tends to be online. With a lot of the platforms that I've looked into, you can set your own hours. So I'm really excited to do this. I'm doing the course at the moment. It's been a bit hectic. You know, you might have noticed I've not been as active on YouTube. You know, it's taken me longer to reply to comments. You know, if I'm subscribed to you, it's taking me longer to comment on your videos, just because I've been so busy with year-end at work. But once that's all over, I'll have more time to focus on my side hustles. And yeah, with online tutoring, actually, it's probably one of the most lucrative ones on this list, because people will pay good money for a good tutor. So if you're good at explaining things to people and you have patience, I would definitely recommend getting into online tutoring. I'll let you know how the TEFL goes as well, because who knows. So the last one that I wanted to mention on the list, and it's not one that I do for various reasons, but it is something that, you know, I've had loads of people suggest to me purely because, you know, my flat is in a great location and I do go away for work a lot, but I just don't trust people to be in my house when I'm not here, and also I'm not allowed to do it where I live because I have a shared ownership property. So, but it is worth mentioning because you can make really good money from this, especially if you live in a good location. You know, London, most places in London, especially if you are near a tube station or something, you will be able to Airbnb, providing you're allowed, obviously. You know, I knew someone at work who lived in Kensington, I think it was, and they were Airbnb-ing their flat. I think it was for something stupid like £300 a night. I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God. However, to them, you know, their property was rented. They didn't own the property, and I think that's a bit different for me because I own my flat. It might be shared ownership, but it's still mine. I have a mortgage and I don't want to do anything that puts that property at risk. Anyway, again, rambling a little bit, but if you live in a good area and you have a spare bedroom or something, I would consider either renting it out or putting it on Airbnb, or if you travel for your main job, again, if you're comfortable with doing it, it can be a great way to make extra money. So those are the side hustles that I would recommend if you want to make extra money on top of a full-time job. But I do get a lot of questions on how I managed to do this, you know. Like I've said, the majority of those things that I've mentioned, apart from the online tutoring and the Airbnb, I've been doing for months, you know, and I will be doing the tutoring once I get the TEFL. So in terms of how to make it work, my first tip would be to make sure that the things you're doing are different from the kind of work that you do for your full-time job. So for example, my main job is very mentally draining. I work in numbers and spreadsheets. I'm constantly mentally stressed. Most things on that list are not mentally draining. They're more physically draining, and it nicely cancels each other out. Secondly, make sure you do schedule in time to relax. It's so important. That's the way you get burnt out. If you are constantly non-stop, you will get burnt out. No matter how many different things you're doing, your body just needs the rest. So every once in a while, I will have a day to literally just do nothing, to watch Netflix, sleep in, stuff like that, and it really helps. And finally, keep yourself constantly reminded of your ultimate goal. Why are you doing this side hustling, you know? Are you aiming for fire? Are you aiming to get out of debt? You know, for me, what I do, I have a picture of the project of the house that I'm building in Poland set as my background on my computer and my phone. It just helps always keep me focused, you know? I'm looking at my laptop and my phone constantly, so it's this constant thing in my mind of like, this is what I'm trying to achieve, this is why I'm doing it. So yeah, hopefully that's been at least a little bit helpful for you. Do let me know in the comments below if there are any other side hustles that you do whilst working full-time. I would be so interested to hear them if there's anything else. You know, I'm all about the hustle life. So yeah, thank you again for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.